The morning sun climbed over the Rockies, casting long shadows across Pine Ridge shooting range. The air smelled of gun oil and fresh Montana pine. A perfect Saturday for those who understood the language of precision. Kate Morrison stood at lane 7, rifle raised, her breath steady as a metronome. 28 years old, average height, with a kind of unremarkable appearance that made people look past her. That had always been her greatest tactical advantage. The shot broke clean. 200 yards downrange, the target acquired a new hole. Dead center. Always dead center. 3 lanes over, Marcus Webb lowered his custom rifle and turned to stare. He was 35, athletic, wearing $5,000 worth of tactical gear that had never seen actual combat. His equipment was impressive. His ego was more so. He watched Kate chamber another round with movements so economical they seemed effortless. The kind of economy that came from muscle memory burned so deep it became instinct. The kind that couldn't be bought with expensive gear or weekend courses. Marcus walked toward her, that familiar swagger of someone who'd mistaken confidence for competence. Kate saw him coming in her peripheral vision, but didn't acknowledge him. She was focused on the next shot, the next breath, the next heartbeat. The round left the barrel. The grouping tightened with each shot. "Excuse me," Marcus said, his voice carrying that particular tone of condescension wrapped in false courtesy. "I couldn't help but notice your shooting. Pretty impressive for someone who probably doesn't get much range time." Kate lowered her rifle, engaged the safety, and turned to face him. Her expression was neutral. Patient. She'd met men like Marcus before, many times. "Thank you," she said simply. Marcus extended his hand. "Marcus Webb, I'm an instructor here, former Army, trained under Daniel Cross. You might have heard of him, best sniper instructor in the SEAL community. Guy's a living legend." Kate shook his hand briefly. Kate Morrison. Marcus glanced at her rifle. Basic AR-15, bone stock, the kind you could buy at any sporting goods store. No custom modifications, no expensive optics, just iron sights and fundamentals. "You've got decent form," Marcus continued, warming to his subject, "but I can see some things in your stance that could use refinement. Daniel taught me this breathing technique that completely transformed my accuracy. Most civilian shooters never learn proper respiratory control." From the range office, Colonel James Brennan watched through the window. 68 years old, lean as barbed wire, with eyes that had seen things most men only glimpsed in nightmares. Vietnam had carved lines into his face that time could never erase. His hands, weathered and scarred, rested on the windowsill with the stillness of a sniper who'd learned patience in the jungles of Khe Sanh. He recognized what Marcus couldn't see, the way Kate held herself, the economy of her movements, the quiet awareness that marked someone who'd operated in places where mistakes meant death. Hawk smiled. He knew exactly who Kate Morrison was, because he'd trained her. Marcus was still talking. "Look, I get it. Everyone thinks they're pretty good, but there's a difference between hitting paper targets on a Saturday morning and real precision shooting. I've been doing this for 15 years professionally. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about." Kate chambered another round. "I appreciate the offer, Marcus, but I'm just here for some quiet practice." "Tell you what," Marcus said, his voice taking on a challenging edge. "Why don't we make this interesting? You and me. Little friendly competition. Nothing serious. If I win, you take one of my advanced courses. If you win," he paused as if the concept was hypothetical, "I'll buy your ammunition for the next month." Kate considered him for a long moment. Every instinct told her to decline, to stay invisible, to avoid exactly this kind of attention. But men like Marcus didn't understand silence. They interpreted it as weakness. "All right," she said quietly. "One competition." Marcus's smile widened. "Now we're talking. Let me set up something more challenging than static paper. You're going to learn something today, Kate. I guarantee it." As Marcus walked toward the equipment shed, Hawk emerged from the office. Even at 68, he commanded space with the quiet authority of a man who'd led Marines through hell and brought most of them home. Kate saw him and her expression softened just slightly. "Colonel." Kate. Hawk's voice was gravel and smoke, shaped by 1,000 cigarettes and 100 operations that didn't exist in official records. "Looks like you've attracted some attention." "Wasn't planning to." "Never are." Hawk studied Marcus through narrowed eyes. "Boy doesn't know what he's looking at." "Most don't." "You going to educate him?" Kate checked her rifle with the automatic precision of ritual. "Seems unavoidable now." Hawk nodded slowly. "Good. Been too long since someone reminded these weekend warriors what real shooting looks like." Frank Mitchell emerged from the equipment room carrying ammunition crates. 63 years old, former Marine, Gulf War veteran, his weathered hands and careful movements spoke of decades maintaining order in chaos. He owned the range with Hawk, two old warriors who'd found peace in the smell of gunpowder and the company of people who understood. "What's the commotion?" Frank asked. "Marcus is about to get a lesson in humility," Hawk said. Frank set down the crates and pulled out binoculars. "This I gotta see." Marcus returned with an armful of equipment, playing to the small crowd that had gathered. Morning shooters, curious about the challenge. He set up targets at varying distances. 100 yards, 200, 300. 5 shots per target, timed. Closest grouping wins. "Ladies first," Marcus said with exaggerated courtesy. Kate stepped to the line. She checked her rifle one final time. Chamber clear, magazine seated, safety on until ready. The same ritual she'd performed in the mountains of Afghanistan, in training facilities that didn't appear on maps, under the watchful eye of the man now standing behind her. She raised the rifle. The world got quiet in the way it always did before she shot. The crowd faded. Marcus's commentary became white noise. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. The timer started. First target, 100 yards, almost insulting in its simplicity. Kate fired 5 rounds in steady succession, each trigger pull a surprise break, exactly as she'd been taught. The rhythm was natural as breathing. Each shot found its mark before the recoil had fully settled from the previous one. Second target, 200 yards. Slight crosswind from the west, maybe 5 miles per hour. Kate adjusted without conscious thought, her body making calculations that had become automatic through 10,000 repetitions. 5 more shots. Perfect cadence. No rushing. Third target, 300 yards. Here's where most shooters struggle. Distance magnified every small error, every tremor, every breath at the wrong moment. But Kate had fired successfully at 1,200 yards in combat, with bullets coming back at her, with lives depending on her precision. 300 yards was just another morning. She settled into her stance, found her natural respiratory pause, and fired. 5 shots that sounded like a slow, measured heartbeat, mechanical, inevitable. "Time," Marcus called out. His voice had lost some of its certainty. Frank walked down range with binoculars while Marcus stayed at the line, watching through his spotting scope. His expression shifted from confidence to something more guarded. Frank returned and handed Marcus the binoculars without comment. Marcus looked. His jaw tightened. That's really good." Kate lowered her rifle and engaged the safety. She said nothing. "Okay," Marcus said, recovering. "Okay, that was excellent. But let me show you what 15 years of professional training looks like." He took his position. To his credit, Marcus was skilled. His form was textbook perfect, his breathing controlled, his trigger discipline solid. He'd had good instruction and practiced diligently. The first 5 shots at 100 yards were impressive. Tight grouping, professional execution. The kind of shooting that would win civilian competitions. The second target at 200 yards showed the first cracks. His breathing elevated slightly, the pressure of performance creeping in. His shots were still good, very good, but there was a microscopic hesitation before each trigger pull. He was thinking instead of flowing. 300 yards was where technique separated from experience. Marcus fired his 5 shots with deliberate care, each one technically correct. But the grouping spread wider than he'd wanted. Not by much. Most observers wouldn't even notice. But Kate noticed. Hawk noticed. Frank noticed. Marcus lowered his rifle, already knowing but needing confirmation. Frank made the walk again, taking his time. When he returned, he handed the binoculars to Marcus first. Marcus studied his own target, then Kate's. The comparison was undeniable. Both were excellent, but one was significantly tighter. "You've done this before," Marcus said finally. "This isn't recreational shooting." Kate said nothing. A young man in the gathered crowd pulled out his phone and started recording. "Who is she?" he asked. Hawk stepped forward, his presence commanding immediate attention. The crowd quieted without him saying a word. "You want to know who she is?" Hawk's voice carried across the range. "She's someone who learned to shoot when it actually mattered, when missing meant people died." Marcus looked between Hawk and Kate, understanding beginning to dawn. "Wait, military?" "Navy," Kate said quietly. "Marines, actually." Frank's eyes widened slightly. He'd suspected, but confirmation was different. He studied Kate with new appreciation. "You served?" "Yes, sir." "Where did you learn to shoot like that?" Marcus asked. Kate glanced at Hawk. The old colonel nodded, almost imperceptibly. "I learned from Colonel James Brennan," Kate said. 4 years of training. He taught me everything." The name hung in the air like smoke. Marcus's expression changed completely. "Brennan? The James Brennan? Vietnam?" "Khe Sanh, 1968, Hawk said, "among other places that don't appear in history books." Marcus's face had gone pale. "But Daniel Cross learned from you. He told me. Said you were the best he'd ever seen. The legend who wrote the book on long-range precision." "Daniel was a good student," Hawk acknowledged. "Smart enough to know that the best instruction came from people who'd done it when technology couldn't save you. When it was just you, your rifle, and the space between heartbeats." Frank approached Kate, extending his hand. "Frank Mitchell. I own this place with the colonel. Former Marine myself, though nothing as fancy as you two." Kate shook his hand. "Kate Morrison. And there's nothing fancy about being scared for years straight." Frank smiled. "Gulf War. I know exactly what you mean." The crowd was growing, word spreading that something interesting was happening at Lane 7. Phones were out now, recording, posting. Kate felt her carefully maintained anonymity beginning to crack. Then someone in the crowd said the name, the one she'd tried to leave behind, the Phantom. Kate closed her eyes briefly. 4 years of quiet life, gone in an instant. "Wait," another voice said. "The Phantom? The Marine sniper from Afghanistan? The one with 47 confirmed kills?" 47? Frank looked at Kate with new respect. "It was a long deployment," Kate said quietly, "and confirmation doesn't mean much when you're just trying to keep your team alive." Marcus stood frozen, his earlier arrogance completely evaporated. "You trained under Colonel Brennan. Daniel Cross trained under Colonel Brennan, which means," he swallowed hard, "you're the master's student, and I was trying to teach you." Hawk put a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "Son, the fact that you recognize your mistake means you might actually be teachable. Most men double down on their ignorance." Before Marcus could respond, the sound of vehicles pulling into the parking lot drew everyone's attention. Not the casual arrival of weekend shooters. This was different, purposeful. Kate's entire body language changed. Hawk saw it immediately, the way she shifted her weight, repositioned herself with clear sight lines to the parking lot, her hand unconsciously moving toward her concealed carry position. 4 men emerged from a dark SUV. They moved with tactical precision, spacing themselves automatically, scanning their surroundings with professional awareness. All wore civilian clothing, but the way they carried themselves screamed military training. "Expecting company?" Frank asked quietly. "No," Hawk said, "but I recognize the pattern. Those aren't tourists." The four men approached the range entrance. The lead man was tall, military haircut, late 40s, with the kind of cold assessment in his eyes that came from years of operations where hesitation meant death. Kate positioned herself between the newcomers and the civilian crowd, her movements subtle but deliberate. Hawk recognized the protective instinct. This wasn't just a woman who could shoot. This was a woman who'd spent years protecting others. Frank stepped forward, placing himself at the entrance. "Gentlemen, Range is having a private event. You'll need to come back this afternoon." The lead man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "We're not here to shoot. We're looking for someone." Young man, mid-20s, brown hair, might go by Ryan. Might have been here recently. Frank's expression remained neutral, but Kate saw his shoulders tighten almost imperceptibly. That was a tell. Frank knew who they were talking about. "Haven't seen anyone matching that description," Frank said evenly. "Like I said, you'll need to come back later." One of the other men stepped forward. Shorter, heavily built, with the compact muscularity of someone who'd spent years in hand-to-hand combat training. "See, that's interesting, because we have very reliable information that says Ryan Mitchell has connections to this range, and we need to find him. Today." The use of the full name was deliberate. Kate watched Frank's reaction, the slight widening of his eyes, the way his hands clenched almost imperceptibly. Ryan Mitchell, Frank's son. Kate stepped forward, her movement casual but positioning herself at an angle that gave her tactical advantage. "I've been here all morning. Haven't seen anyone like that. Maybe try the other ranges in the county. Cascade Tactical over in Great Falls gets a lot of traffic." The lead man turned his attention to Kate. His eyes narrowed, assessment shifting, professional recognition. "Who are you?" "Just a shooter," Kate said. "Enjoying a Saturday morning, same as everyone else here." The shorter man spoke up. "We've been watching this place for 20 minutes. Saw your shooting, military training, probably special operations, based on the grouping and speed." Kate shrugged. "Lots of people have military training. It's Montana." The lead man studied her for a long moment. Then something clicked in his expression. Recognition. Unwelcome recognition. "Wait," he said slowly. "I know you. Or I know of you. Morrison. Kate Morrison." He pulled out his phone, scrolled through something. His expression hardened. "The Phantom. Youngest female Marine sniper. 47 confirmed kills. Retired 3 years ago." He looked up. "What's a retired Marine doing in Montana, protecting information about someone she's never met?" Hawk moved forward, his presence making younger men pause. "She's not protecting anything. You're making assumptions based on nothing." The lead man looked at Hawk, really looked at him, and Kate saw the moment of recognition. "Colonel Brennan. James Hawk Brennan. Vietnam legend. 68 years old, but still looks like he could drop someone at 1,000 yards. He paused. "This is interesting. Very interesting." "What's your business here?" Hawk's voice was flat, command voice, the tone that expected immediate answers. "Private security contractors," the lead man said, pulling out credentials. "Licensed and bonded. Working for clients with legitimate interests in locating Ryan Mitchell. He's a witness in a federal case. Arms trafficking. Big money involved. Our clients want to ensure certain testimony doesn't happen." Frank's voice was hard. "Ryan is in witness protection. Federal protection. You people have no right to be looking for him." "Witness protection has some gaps, as it turns out," the lead man said, "and our employers have resources that can exploit those gaps." He looked directly at Frank. "You're his father, Frank Mitchell, Gulf War Marine, own this range. We know exactly who you are." The situation was escalating. Kate could feel it, the way tension built before combat. She glanced at the crowd, still filming on their phones, civilians exposed, Too many complications. Gentlemen, Kate said, her voice calm but carrying unmistakable authority. You're on private property, making threats. That's not going to end well for anyone. I suggest you leave before this becomes a law enforcement matter. The lead man looked at her again, reassessing. Lady, I don't know who you are, but you should walk away from this right now. This doesn't concern you. I'm concerned about those people behind me, Kate said, nodding toward the civilians. And I'm concerned about escalating violence on a civilian shooting range. So yes, it concerns me. The shorter man laughed. You think you're going to stop us? You, the old Marine, and the pretty boy instructor? Kate didn't respond. She was calculating distances, angles, cover positions. If this went violent, she needed to control where and how it happened. Move the threat away from civilians. Create opportunities for escape routes. Standard protection protocol. Then the lead man said something that changed everything. My name is Dmitry Volkov, former Spetsnaz, and I know exactly who you are, Kate Morrison, because I know people who served with you. People who've talked about the Phantom. He paused. I respect what you did, but you're on the wrong side of this. Our employer has $40 million committed to finding Ryan Mitchell. That buys a lot of resources, a lot of people willing to do whatever's necessary. Hawk stepped closer to Dmitry. Volkov, Russian name. Your employer wouldn't happen to be Viktor Kozlov, would it? Dmitry smiled. You're well informed, Colonel. Arms dealer, Hawk said. Ryan testified against his organization. Now you're hunting a federal witness. We're conducting a legitimate investigation, Dmitry corrected. What happens after we find him isn't my concern. I'm just paid to locate. Kate's mind was racing. This wasn't random. This was organized, well-funded, and very serious. Ryan Mitchell had seen something that put a $40 million operation at risk. These men weren't going to walk away. Frank pulled out his phone. I'm calling the sheriff. Do that, Dmitry said. We'll be gone before they arrive. But we'll be back. Today, tomorrow, next week. We'll find Ryan Mitchell. It's just a question of how many people get hurt in the process. Kate made a decision. Frank, get everyone out through the back. Now. Frank hesitated only a second, then nodded. He moved toward the crowd, ushering them toward the rear exit. Marcus helped, his earlier arrogance completely gone, replaced by the sober understanding of actual danger. Dmitry's eyes locked onto Kate. You're making a mistake, standing between us and our objective. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, Kate said quietly. This isn't one of them. Your objective isn't here. Pushing this further will only cause problems you don't want. Before Dmitry could respond, a new vehicle pulled into the parking lot. Official plates. Two people emerged. A woman in her 50s, elegant and composed, followed by a man in an expensive suit carrying a briefcase. Dmitry turned to watch them approach. Well, this day just keeps getting more interesting. The woman walked directly toward the group with practiced confidence. She stopped 10 feet away, her posture relaxed but alert. Kate Morrison, she said, my name is Elena Kozlov. I believe you've been causing problems for my husband's employees. She gestured to Dmitry and his men. We need to talk. Hawk's voice was quiet but intense. Elena Kozlov, Victor's wife. Yes, Elena said simply. Then she looked directly at Kate. And I think you should know something important. My husband sent these men to find Ryan Mitchell, but I'm here to help you protect him. The parking lot went silent, except for the wind moving through the pine trees. Kate studied Elena, looking for deception, for traps. But the woman's eyes held something Kate recognized. Determination and pain. Why would you help us? Frank demanded. Your husband is the one hunting my son. Elena's expression hardened. Because 3 years ago, weapons my husband trafficked were used in a gang shooting in Denver. 15 people died. One of them was my younger sister. She paused, letting that sink in. I've been working with the FBI for 18 months. Everything my husband has built, I'm helping destroy. But he's gone to ground now, hired independent contractors. I can't control his money or his resources, but I can give you information that might keep Ryan Mitchell alive until he testifies. Dmitry swore quietly in Russian. Elena ignored him. These men work for Victor, but Victor answers to someone else, someone more dangerous, someone with connections that go beyond American law enforcement. Hawk's voice was sharp. Who? Elena pulled out her phone and held it up. On the screen was a photograph. An older man, 70s, with cold eyes and a military bearing that transcended age. Kate saw Hawk's reaction, the way his entire body went rigid, the way his breathing changed. Recognition, and something deeper, something old. No, Hawk whispered, that's not possible. Elena's voice was soft. You know him, Colonel Brennan, from a long time ago. Hawk stared at the phone. Yuri Volkov, Dmitry's father. Yes, Elena confirmed. General Yuri Volkov, former Soviet Army, Afghanistan, 1980s. Legendary sniper. And if the stories are true, someone you've met before. Hawk's voice was distant, pulled back through decades. Kunduz Province, 1985. I was part of a CIA advisory team. We were training Afghan resistance fighters, and Hawk trailed off. He was hunting you, Elena finished. For 6 months, the American sniper and the Soviet sniper, a private war inside the bigger war. Kate looked at her mentor. Colonel? Hawk's eyes refocused, coming back from 40 years past. It was the Cold War. Different rules, different world. I thought he died. We got intelligence that he'd been killed by Mujahideen in 1986. He survived, Elena said. Disappeared for years, built a new life in Russia. Then came to America in the 90s, made connections with organized crime. His son Victor married into a crime family, expanded the operation, and his grandson, she gestured to Dmitry, runs the enforcement arm. Dmitry spoke for the first time since Elena arrived. My grandfather doesn't forget. 40 years, and he still talks about the American who beat him. James Brennan, the only opponent he ever respected, and the only one he ever wanted to kill. Hawk's voice was steady. If Yuri's involved, this isn't just about stopping Ryan's testimony. This is personal for him. Yes, Elena said. Victor hired Dmitry's team, but Yuri's directing the operation. He learned you're involved, Colonel. That Kate Morrison is here. That the legendary Hawk Brennan has come out of retirement to protect a witness. She paused. He sees this as unfinished business. Kate's phone buzzed. FBI agent Torres. She answered, listening for 30 seconds, then hung up. That was the FBI, Kate said. They want to move Ryan to protective custody. Off the books, no official trail. Frank's voice was tight. Where? Kate looked at Hawk. They're proposing Montana wilderness. Bob Marshall. 1,000,000 acres. No roads. We'd be inserted by helicopter, stay dark for 6 weeks until trial. Hawk nodded slowly. Wilderness survival. No technology, just skill and terrain knowledge. He looked at Kate. Like I taught you. Like you taught me, Kate agreed. Dmitry stepped forward. You can run. My grandfather will find you. He found you once before, Colonel. In Afghanistan. In mountains just like these. He'll find you again. Hawk's voice was quiet steel. Last time, I won. He knows that. That's why this is personal. Elena held up her phone again. Before you decide, you should see this. She pressed play. A video call screen. And the face that appeared made Hawk's breath catch. Yuri Volkov, 70-something years old, still sharp, still dangerous, looking directly at the camera with eyes that remembered Kunduz. James Brennan, the voice said in accented English. 40 years. I thought you were dead. I hoped you were dead. Instead, you are still playing hero, still thinking you can protect the innocent. A pause. Your student, this Kate Morrison, she is good. I have studied her record. 47 kills. Impressive for someone so young. But she learned from you. And I know how you think. I know how you move. I know your weaknesses. Another pause. Take the witness into wilderness. Run and hide like you did in Afghanistan. But this time, I will not lose. This time, I finish what we started in Kunduz. Through you, or through your student. Either way, the legend of James Brennan ends in Montana. The video stopped. Hawk stared at the blank screen. Kate watched emotions move across her mentor's face. Anger, fear, and something else. Determination. He's baiting you, Kate said quietly. Wants you to react emotionally. I know, Hawk replied. Doesn't make it less effective. Frank looked between them. What do we do? Kate met Hawk's eyes. 4 years of training. 4 years of learning not just how to shoot, but how to think, how to survive, how to turn disadvantages into advantages. We do what Marines do, Kate said. We protect the innocent, and we face the enemy on ground of our choosing. Hawk smiled grimly. Wilderness it is. Elena stepped closer. I can provide intelligence, everything I know about Yuri's resources, his tactics, his contractors. But you should know one more thing. She paused. Yuri's daughter was Victor's first wife. She died 5 years ago from cancer. Yuri blames Victor's lifestyle, his criminal connections, the stress. That's why he's helping hunt Ryan, not for Victor, for revenge against everyone involved in his daughter's life. Family makes everything more complicated, Frank said quietly. Yes, Elena agreed, but it also provides motivation. Yuri won't stop. This is about honor for him, finishing old business, proving he's still the warrior he was at 40. Hawk looked at Kate. You understand what this means. If we do this, we're not just protecting Ryan, we're finishing a war that started before you were born. Kate's voice was steady. You taught me that unfinished wars don't end. They just wait for the next battlefield. Dmitri watched them with something approaching respect. My grandfather will come himself. He won't send contractors when it's personal. He'll hunt you in person. Good, Hawk said. Been 40 years. Time we finish this properly. Elena handed Kate a thumb drive. Everything I have. Financial records, known associates, tactical patterns. Use it to stay alive. Kate took it. Why help us? Really? Elena's voice was soft. Because my sister was 23 years old, innocent, and Victor's guns killed her. If Ryan's testimony can put Victor away, if it can hurt Yuri in the process, then maybe Sarah's death means something. The sun had climbed higher. The morning that started with a simple shooting competition had evolved into something far more complicated. Kate looked at the range, at the mountains beyond, at the wilderness that would become their battlefield. Marcus approached, hesitant. What can I do? Kate studied him. The arrogance was gone. In its place was something better, humility and determination. Stay visible, Kate said. Make it look like I'm still here. Consult with you. Train with you. Anyone watching needs to think I'm accessible, predictable. Marcus straightened. I can do that. And, Kate, I'm sorry. For earlier. For being an idiot. You weren't an idiot, Kate said. You just didn't know what you didn't know. Most people never learn that lesson. Hawk put a hand on Marcus's shoulder. You'll learn, if you're willing. Real instruction starts with respect. FBI. Agent Torres pulled into the parking lot, responding to Frank's call. She emerged from her vehicle, taking in the scene with sharp intelligence. Someone want to tell me why I'm getting reports of armed contractors on civilian property? Torres demanded. Kate stepped forward. We need to talk, privately, about witness protection and what happens when it gets compromised. Torres looked at the assembled group, Dmitri and his men, Elena and her lawyer, Hawk and Frank. Kate standing in the center like a fulcrum around which everything else balanced. This is about Ryan Mitchell, Torres said. It wasn't a question. Yes, Kate confirmed. And it's bigger than you think. Torres sighed. It always is. All right, everyone except Miss Morrison, Colonel Brennan, and Frank Mitchell, clear out. We'll talk about threats and protective custody and whatever the hell is happening here. Dmitri nodded to his men. They moved back toward their SUV. Before leaving, he looked at Kate one more time. My grandfather respects worthy opponents, Dmitri said. You and the colonel, you're worthy. But respect doesn't mean mercy. When he comes, he'll come to kill. Then he'd better bring his best game, Kate replied, because I learned from a man who beat him once already. Dmitri almost smiled. That's what he's counting on. Pride. It's a weakness he knows how to exploit. The contractors left. Elena and her lawyer followed. Marcus moved back to the range, already planning his role as decoy. Torres, Kate, Hawk, and Frank stood in the parking lot as the dust settled. 6 weeks, Torres said. That's how long until Ryan testifies. Can you keep him alive for 6 weeks? Kate looked at Hawk, the old colonel who'd taught her everything, who'd survived Vietnam and Afghanistan and 40 years of wars that never ended, who carried scars, physical and mental, that most men couldn't imagine. Yes, Kate said, we can keep him alive. Hawk nodded. Wilderness, old-school tactics, no technology, just skill and terrain. We'll go dark and stay dark. Frank's voice was quiet. That's my son out there, scared, running. I'm coming with you. Frank, Hawk started. I'm coming, Frank repeated. Gulf War Marine, I might be 63, but I remember how to survive. And Ryan needs to see his father, needs to know he's not alone. Kate put a hand on Frank's shoulder. Then you're coming, but you follow orders, both of mine and the colonel's. Because in wilderness, mistakes kill. Frank nodded. Understood. Torres pulled out her phone. I'll arrange extraction. Military helicopter, pilot with clearance, no flight plan. You'll be inserted at coordinates known only to me and my direct supervisor. Complete radio silence except emergency checks. What about the leak? Kate asked. Someone sold Ryan's location before. How do we know it won't happen again? We don't, Torres admitted. But I'm limiting information to the absolute minimum. No one else knows the drop coordinates. No one else knows the timeline. It's the best I can offer. Kate accepted that. In her experience, perfect security didn't exist. You worked with what you had and adapted when it failed. The sun continued its arc across the Montana sky. In 6 hours, Kate Morrison would be in a helicopter heading into 1 million acres of wilderness. In 6 hours, Colonel James Brennan would return to the kind of combat he'd left behind 40 years ago. In 6 hours, Frank Mitchell would face the terror of protecting his son in an environment where civilization was just a memory. But for now, they stood in the parking lot of a shooting range. 3 generations of Marines, preparing for a war that started before one of them was born. Hawk looked at Kate. You ready for this? Kate checked her rifle one more time. Chamber clear, magazine seated, safety on. You taught me to always be ready, Colonel. I taught you a lot of things, Hawk said, but the most important was this. Wars don't end. They just change location. And warriors don't retire. They just wait for the next mission. Kate smiled. Then I guess we were both just waiting. Guess so. As they turned to begin preparations, none of them noticed the drone hovering 1,000 feet above the range. Silent, watching, recording. In Mexico City, in a villa overlooking the mountains, General Yuri Volkov watched the video feed on his tablet. He saw Kate Morrison, saw James Brennan, saw them preparing for wilderness. He smiled. 40 years ago, in the mountains of Afghanistan, James Brennan had beaten him, had anticipated his moves, countered his tactics, forced him to retreat with his reputation damaged and his pride shattered. But that was 40 years ago. They were both older now, slower. But Yuri had spent those decades preparing for this moment, studying, learning, waiting. And now his enemy had given him the perfect battlefield. Wilderness. No technology, just skill against skill. Experience against experience. The old war would end in Montana, and this time, Yuri would win. He made a phone call. "Assemble the team," he said in Russian. "American contractors, former special operations, the best money can buy. And tell them we leave tonight. We have a legend to kill." The sun set over Pine Ridge shooting range. Kate Morrison packed her gear, methodical and thorough. Hawk Brennan cleaned weapons with the ritual precision of a man who'd done it 10,000 times. Frank Mitchell called his son, voice shaking, telling him that help was coming. And somewhere in Montana wilderness, in 1,000,000 acres of pristine backcountry, a battlefield waited. The war hadn't ended in Kunduz, 1985. It had just paused. Now it would finish where it began. In mountains, in silence, in the space between heartbeats. Marine versus Soviet, student versus legend. Old war, new ground. The Phantom and the Hawk, heading into darkness to protect one innocent life, against an enemy who'd spent 40 years preparing for revenge. Part 1 ended with engines starting, helicopters warming up, and 3 Marines heading toward a wilderness that would either forge a legend or bury it. The answer would come in 6 weeks, if they survived that long. The helicopter cut through Montana darkness like a knife through silk. No lights, no radio chatter, just the rhythmic thump of rotors and the steady vibration of a machine built for insertion into hostile territory. Kate Morrison sat in the cargo bay, checking equipment with mechanical precision. Rifle secured, ammunition counted, survival gear inspected. Every movement was ritual, burned into muscle memory through years of deployments where forgetting one item meant death. Across from her, Colonel Hawk Brennan stared out the open door at the landscape rushing past below. Mountains silhouetted against starlight, rivers like silver threads, 1,000,000 acres of wilderness that looked peaceful from altitude, but would become brutal at ground level. Frank Mitchell sat beside his son Ryan, one hand on the young man's shoulder. Ryan was 26, thin with the haunted look of someone who'd seen too much and understood he'd never be safe again. His hands shook slightly despite his efforts to control them. The pilot's voice crackled through their headsets. 5 minutes to drop zone. Weather's clear. No other aircraft in the area. You'll be ghosts the second your boots hit dirt. Kate gave a thumbs up. She looked at Hawk, searching his weathered face for signs of doubt or fear. She found neither. Just the calm focus of a man who'd done this before, when it actually mattered. "You good, Colonel?" Kate asked through the comms. Hawk turned from the door. Even at 68, his eyes were sharp, alert. "Been dropping into hostile territory since before you were born, Kate. This is just another insertion. Except this time the enemy knows we're coming. Makes it more honest." Hawk checked his rifle, movements as automatic as breathing. "Vietnam, we always knew Charlie was waiting. Didn't stop us from going, just made us smarter about how." Frank leaned forward. "Ryan's never done anything like this. He's terrified." "Good," Hawk said. "Terror keeps you sharp. Complacency kills." Ryan's voice was barely audible over the rotors. "I'm sorry for all of this, for putting you all at risk." Kate shifted to face him directly. "You testified against criminals, told the truth when it would have been easier to stay silent. That took courage most people don't have. We're not risking ourselves for you, Ryan. We're honoring your courage by protecting it. But those men, the contractors, they won't stop." "No," Kate agreed, "they won't, which is why we're taking this into terrain where money and technology mean less than skill and experience." She gestured to Hawk. "And we have the best teacher either of us could ask for." The helicopter began descending. The pilot's voice, 2 minutes, LZ is a clearing near the Chinese wall. No structures within 10 miles. No roads within 15. You'll be completely isolated. Hawk stood, still capable at 68, still dangerous. "Listen up," he said, his command voice cutting through the engine noise. First 24 hours are critical. We establish base camp, set perimeter, identify escape routes. Frank, you're with me on security. Kate handles tactical oversight. Ryan, you do exactly what we tell you, when we tell you. Questions kill in wilderness. Obedience keeps you breathing. Ryan nodded, swallowing hard. The skids touched earth. The pilot kept rotors at full power, ready for immediate extraction, if needed. Kate jumped first, rifle up, scanning the tree line. Clear, she signaled. Hawk followed, moving with surprising speed for his age. Then Frank and Ryan, carrying packs that seemed too heavy for civilians, but were carefully calculated for 6 weeks of isolation. Kate gave the pilot final thumbs up. The helicopter lifted immediately, banking hard, disappearing into darkness. Within 30 seconds, the sound faded completely. Silence crashed down like a physical weight. No engines, no civilization, just wind through pine trees and the distant sound of water over rocks. Ryan stood frozen, overwhelmed by the totality of their isolation. Frank put a hand on his son's shoulder. Breathe, we've got you. Hawk was already moving, reading terrain with eyes that had mapped hostile territory for 50 years. Camp's 200 meters north, natural clearing with rock outcrop for protection, good sight lines, single approach vector we can monitor. They moved through darkness, Hawk navigating by starlight in memory of topographical maps he'd studied for 16 hours straight. Kate took rear guard, constantly scanning their back trail for signs of pursuit. Too early for contractors, but wilderness had its own dangers. Bears, mountain lions, terrain that could kill the careless. 20 minutes later, they reached the clearing Hawk had identified. He was right. Perfect defensive position. Rock face to the north provided shelter from wind and created a natural barrier. Clear views to south and west. Forest close enough for concealment, but far enough to prevent ambush. Home for 6 weeks, Hawk said. Make it comfortable. Make it defensible. They worked in practiced silence. Kate and Hawk had trained together enough to communicate without words. Frank's Gulf War experience made him competent even in unfamiliar terrain. Ryan tried to help but mostly stayed out of the way, learning by watching. By dawn, they had a functioning camp. Shelter erected, supplies secured, perimeter markers set, water source identified and tested. As the sun rose over the Chinese wall, painting ancient rock formations in shades of gold and red, Hawk gathered them around a small fire. First lesson, he said looking at Ryan, wilderness survival isn't about fighting nature. It's about working with it, respecting it. Every animal out here has advantages we don't. Speed, claws, teeth. Our advantage is intelligence and adaptation. Ryan listened intently, fear slowly being replaced by focus. Second lesson, Hawk continued, the men hunting you have resources, technology, money, but they don't have what we have. They don't know this terrain. They don't have 6 weeks of preparation. And most importantly, he paused looking at Kate, they don't have someone who learned to hunt humans in terrain just like this, taught by someone who perfected it in Vietnam. Kate allowed herself a small smile. Colonel, you're making me sound dangerous. You are dangerous, Hawk said simply. That's why you're here. Frank poured coffee from their carefully rationed supply. How long before they find us? They already know the general area, Kate said. FBI leak gave them that much. Question is how fast they can narrow it down. 1,000,000 acres is a lot of ground to search. Even with drones and satellite, even with unlimited budget, finding 4 people who don't want to be found takes time. How much time? Ryan asked. Hawk studied the horizon. Week, maybe 2 if we're careful, but they'll come. Question is whether we're ready when they do. The first week passed in careful routine. Hawk taught Ryan survival skills with the patience of a man who'd trained hundreds of young Marines. Silent movement, reading terrain, finding water, each lesson delivered with precision. Kate ran security, establishing observation posts, mapping escape routes, identifying choke points where a small force could defeat a larger one. The tactics were old, learned from Hawk, who'd learned them in jungles half a world away. But terrain was terrain. Principles didn't change. Frank discovered his Gulf War training returning like muscle memory. Desert survival translated surprisingly well to mountains. Different environment, same core concepts. Adapt, improvise, survive. By day 8, Ryan had transformed from terrified witness to competent survivor. Then they spotted the first drone. Kate saw it first, a distant speck moving in patterns too regular for a bird. She signaled Hawk without sound. He looked, nodded, and they moved the group immediately under dense canopy where thermal imaging couldn't penetrate. "They're searching," Hawk said quietly. "Systematic grid pattern, professional." "How did they narrow it down this fast?" Frank demanded. Kate pulled out the secure radio, one of 2 pieces of technology they'd brought. She keyed Torres's emergency frequency. "This is Phantom. We have aerial observation. How is this possible?" Static. Then Torres's voice, tight with anger. "Satellite imagery was accessed. Someone in DoD sold reconnaissance data. Shows helicopter flight paths for the past week. They can't pinpoint you, but they know the insertion zone." Kate swore quietly. "How many people have access to that data?" "Too many. We're investigating, but damage is done. They know you're in a 50-square-mile area." "That's still huge, but smaller than we wanted." Hawk took the radio. "Torres, this is Brennan. Tell me about their resources. What are we facing?" "Intelligence says Viktor Kozlov hired 8 contractors, all former special operations, 4 American, 2 British, 2 Russian, led by a former Delta operator named Maxwell Greer." Hawk's face went pale. Kate saw it immediately. "Colonel?" Hawk's voice was distant. "Max Greer. I know him, served with him. Grenada, 1983. "Served with or trained?" Kate asked. "Both." Hawk sat heavily on a fallen log. "He was good, very good. Talented operator with a bright future. But he got caught executing prisoners, unarmed combatants. I testified at his court-martial." Frank understood immediately. "He was dishonorably discharged because of you." "Because of what he did," Hawk corrected. "I just told the truth. But yes, my testimony ended his career 40 years ago. And now he's being paid to hunt you," Kate said. "Personal motivation plus professional contract. Worst combination." Torres's voice came through the radio. "There's more. Intelligence intercepts suggest Yuri Volkov himself is in the United States. Entered through Mexico 3 days ago. If that's accurate, he's not directing this from distance. He's coming in person." Hawk closed his eyes. "Of course he is. This was never about the money or stopping testimony. This is about finishing what we started in Kunduz." Ryan's voice was small. "What happened in Kunduz?" Hawk opened his eyes, and for a moment, Kate saw him not as the legendary colonel, but as a man carrying 40 years of weight. "Afghanistan, 1985. Cold War was still cold but getting warm. I was part of a CIA advisory team training Mujahideen fighters against Soviet occupation. Yuri Volkov was Soviet Army's best sniper. They sent him specifically to hunt Americans providing assistance." "And?" Frank prompted. 6 months. He hunted me. I hunted him. Cat and mouse through mountains that make Montana look gentle. Lost 3 good men to his rifle before I finally got a clean shot." Hawk's voice was quiet. "Put a round through his scope. Should have killed him. But the scope deflected just enough. Destroyed his eye instead. He survived, evacuated, and I thought that was the end." Kate sat beside her mentor. "He's been waiting 40 years for revenge." "Longer than that," Hawk said. "He's been preparing, learning, studying. Men like Yuri don't forget. They just get patient." The radio crackled again. "Torres, you need to know what you're facing. Yuri Volkov, age 72, former Soviet Spetsnaz. Confirmed kills estimated over 300. Expert in mountain warfare, and long-range precision. Even with one eye, intelligence reports say he can still shoot at distances that defy belief. "What's the plan?" Frank asked, looking between Kate and Hawk. Kate stood, decision crystallizing. "We adapt. They know general area, so we relocate. Not far, just enough to make their search pattern obsolete. We set traps. We use terrain. We make every mile they cover expensive in time and resources." Hawk nodded approval. "Vietnam tactics. We're not trying to win firefight. We're trying to exhaust them, frustrate them, make them make mistakes." "And if they don't make mistakes?" Ryan's voice shook. "Everyone makes mistakes eventually," Hawk said, "especially when they're angry. And I guarantee you, Max Greer is angry. 40 years of resentment focused on one target. That anger will make him sloppy." They relocated that afternoon, moving 3 miles west to a new position Hawk had identified from topographical study. The new camp was less comfortable, but more defensible, situated in a narrow canyon with only 2 approaches, both easily monitored. Day 10 brought the first direct contact. Kate was on morning patrol when she found the boot print. Fresh, less than an hour old. Military-grade tread pattern, moving north with purpose. She signaled Hawk using a bird call they'd established. He appeared beside her within a minute, moving with the silence of a man who'd stalked Viet Cong through triple canopy jungle. Hawk examined the print. Heavy, carrying significant weight, probably 60-pound pack, moving alone, which means either he's scouting or stupid. "Contractors don't hire stupid," Kate said. "Then he's scouting, which means the main force is behind him, probably 2 to 3 miles, waiting for his report." They tracked the boot prints for half a mile, staying parallel, never exposing themselves to direct line of sight. The scout was competent, but not exceptional. He moved carefully, but predictably, following natural paths of least resistance. Hawk signaled, "Stop." Ahead, through dense pine, they could see movement. The scout had paused, examining something on the ground. Kate raised her rifle, acquiring target through her scope. The man was 40-something, fit, carrying expensive equipment. Professional all the way. Hawk touched her shoulder, shook his head. Not yet. They watched the scout take photographs of ground disturbance where they'd camped 2 days prior. He pulled out a satellite phone, started to dial. Hawk made a decision. He picked up a rock and threw it 30 feet to the left. It crashed through brush with exaggerated noise. The scout spun, rifle up, moving toward the sound with tactical precision. Kate and Hawk moved in opposite direction, silent as smoke, putting distance between themselves and the distracted contractor. 10 minutes later, they were back at camp. Frank had Ryan concealed in the emergency shelter they'd prepared. Kate gathered their critical equipment, while Hawk erased signs of their presence with methods learned in Vietnam. Scatter pine needles. Replace disturbed rocks. Make it look like wind and animals, not humans. Within an hour, they'd relocated again, this time to a position 2 miles south. Hawk chose a ridgeline with commanding views and multiple escape routes. That night, they watched from concealment as flashlights moved through their former camp. 3 contractors searching, finding nothing. "They're frustrated," Hawk observed. "Good. Frustrated people make mistakes." Day 14 brought the game changer. Kate was checking perimeter when she heard the voice, amplified, echoing through the canyon. "James Brennan, I know you can hear me." She froze, moved carefully to observation point. Below, standing in a clearing with a megaphone, was a man she'd never seen but recognized instantly from descriptions. One eye covered with a black patch, silver hair, 72 years old but standing straight as a rifle barrel. Military bearing that transcended age. General Yuri Volkov had arrived. 40 years, James. 40 years I have waited for this moment. You took my eye. You took my pride. You took my reputation." Yuri's voice carried the weight of decades. "Now I take everything from you. Your legend, your student, your honor." Hawk appeared beside Kate, his face unreadable. Yuri continued, I have 8 men, best contractors money can buy, but I do not need them. I need only this. He held up a rifle. Same rifle I used in Afghanistan, same scope you destroyed. But I adapted, James. One eye is enough when you know how to use it. He paused, letting silence build. You have choices. Surrender the witness. Walk away. I let you live with shame of abandoning your duty. Or stay and fight. Die in these mountains like you should have died in Kunduz. Or, another pause, send your student. Let Kate Morrison prove if she is truly worthy of your teaching. Kate felt Hawk tense beside her. 3 days, Yuri said. I give you 3 days to decide. Then we come in force, and these mountains will run red with blood of everyone you are trying to protect. The megaphone lowered. Yuri stood for a long moment, facing their general direction, as if he could see through rock and forest to where they hid. Then he turned and walked away, disappearing into trees with the fluid movement of a man half his age. Hawk and Kate returned to camp in silence. Frank and Ryan waited anxiously. That was him, Frank said. That was Yuri Volkov. Yes, Hawk confirmed. What do we do? Ryan asked. Hawk sat, and for the first time since Kate had known him, he looked every one of his 68 years. Tired, worn, but still sharp. We fight, Hawk said simply, but not the way he expects. Yuri wants a duel, sniper versus sniper, old glory restored through violence. That's what his pride demands. So we deny him, Kate said, understanding immediately. We don't give him the confrontation he wants. Exactly. We make this about survival, not glory. About protecting Ryan, not proving who's the better shot. Hawk looked at Kate. You're going to hate what I'm about to propose. Tell me. We split up. You take Ryan and continue evasion. Keep moving, stay ahead of them. Frank and I draw them off, make them think we're the primary target. Absolutely not, Kate said immediately. We stay together. That's fundamental tactical doctrine. Sometimes doctrine has to bend, Hawk replied. They're tracking us because we're a group. 4 people leave more signs than 2. You and Ryan can move faster, hide easier. And, he paused, Yuri's not interested in Ryan. He's interested in me. If I'm the bait, you're the protection. Frank spoke up. Colonel's right. This isn't about the witness anymore. It's about settling old scores. Kate looked at her mentor, the man who'd taught her everything about being a warrior. You're asking me to leave you. I'm ordering you to complete the mission, Hawk said, and his voice carried the steel of command she'd heard 100 times in training. Protect the witness. Keep him alive until trial. That's the mission. My personal vendetta with Yuri is secondary. It's not secondary to him, Kate argued. He'll kill you. Hawk smiled, and it was the saddest thing Kate had ever seen. Maybe, or maybe one more time I prove I'm better. Either way, Ryan lives. That's what matters. They argued for 2 hours. Kate used every tactical argument she could construct. Frank supported Hawk's position. Ryan sat terrified, understanding he was the reason for the conflict. Finally, as night fell completely, Kate accepted the inevitable. 2 days, she said. You get 2 days to draw them off. Then I'm coming back whether Ryan's safe or not. Deal, Hawk said. They spent that night preparing. Hawk reviewed every lesson he'd taught Kate, every technique, every principle. It felt like saying goodbye, though neither acknowledged it directly. As dawn broke on day 15, Kate and Ryan prepared to move out. Frank would accompany Hawk, 2 old Marines against impossible odds. Hawk pulled Kate aside for final words. You're the best student I ever had, he said quietly. Better than Daniel Cross. Better than the dozens of SEAL snipers I trained. You understood that marksmanship is just a tool. The real skill is knowing when to use it and what's worth protecting. You taught me that, Kate said, voice tight. No, you already knew it. I just helped you refine it. Hawk gripped her shoulder. If something happens to me, you finish this. Not for revenge, not for pride, but because Ryan Mitchell deserves to live long enough to testify. Because justice matters more than old men settling old scores. Kate nodded, not trusting her voice. Hawk turned to Ryan. Son, you're about to spend 2 weeks alone with one of the most dangerous women on this planet. Do exactly what she tells you. Questions kill. Obedience keeps you alive. Ryan's voice shook. Thank you for everything. Thank Kate when this is over. She's the one keeping you breathing. They separated at sunrise. Kate and Ryan heading west, deeper into wilderness. Hawk and Frank heading east, toward the contractors, deliberately leaving obvious trail. Kate looked back once, saw Hawk and Frank disappearing into trees. 2 old warriors walking toward a fight they might not survive. Then she forced herself to turn away. Focus on the mission, protect Ryan, complete the objective. But as she moved through Montana wilderness, teaching Ryan to walk silently, to hide signs of passage, to survive, a part of her mind stayed with Hawk, the man who'd taught her everything, who'd survived Vietnam and Afghanistan and 50 years of wars that never ended. Now facing the one enemy who'd haunted him for 40 years. And Kate knew, with the certainty that came from years of combat, that before this ended, she'd have to choose between the mission and the mentor, between duty and loyalty, between Ryan's life and Hawk's. The wilderness stretched ahead, 1,000,000 acres of terrain that would witness the end of a war that began before she was born. And somewhere behind her, in mountains that had seen countless battles between man and nature, Hawk Brennan prepared to face Yuri Volkov one final time. Student and master, separated by necessity, both heading toward conflicts that would define everything they'd become. The sun climbed higher. Kate and Ryan moved deeper into wilderness, and the hunt continued. 4 days after splitting from Hawk and Frank, Kate Morrison crouched on a ridge overlooking Helena, Montana. The wilderness was behind her now, replaced by the sharp edges of civilization. Ryan Mitchell sat beside her, transformed from the terrified witness who'd entered the Bob Marshall to something harder. Not a warrior, but no longer a victim. The city spread below like a map, and at its center, the federal courthouse rose like a fortress. Kate counted security positions through her binoculars. 6 sniper teams on surrounding buildings. Federal marshals at every entrance. State police tactical units staged in unmarked vehicles. Agent Torres had built a wall of armed professionals around Ryan's testimony. But Kate had spent 2 weeks in wilderness being hunted by the best contractors money could buy, and she knew walls could be breached. That's a lot of guns, Ryan said quietly. Not enough, Kate replied. She'd been silent for most of their journey out of the mountains, her mind constantly pulling back to Hawk and Frank. 2 days had become 4 with no contact. The emergency radio stayed silent. Either they were maintaining operational security or they were dead. Kate forced the thought away. Focus on the mission. Get Ryan to that witness stand. Everything else was secondary. Her phone buzzed. Torres. We have you on visual. Come in through the north entrance. Marshals are waiting. Kate and Ryan moved down from the ridge, entering the city through routes she'd mapped during their approach. Always aware, always scanning. The transition from wilderness to urban terrain required mental shift. Different threats, different tactics. The marshals met them at a secure building 2 blocks from the courthouse. Torres was there, her face tight with stress. You made it, Torres said, relief evident. We've been monitoring communications. Victor's people know Ryan's here. They're planning something, but we can't determine what. Where's Colonel Brennan? Kate asked immediately. Torres's expression darkened. No contact for 72 hours. Last GPS ping from his emergency beacon showed him 20 miles east of your drop zone. Then nothing. Kate felt ice in her chest. Dead or captured? Unknown. State police sent a helicopter to his last known position. Found signs of significant engagement, shell casings, blood, but no bodies. Ryan looked stricken. They died protecting me. We don't know they're dead, Kate said, but her voice lacked conviction. 72 hours of silence in hostile territory usually meant one thing. Torres led them into a briefing room. Maps covered the walls, photographs of contractors including recent surveillance images, and one face that made Kate's breath catch. Maxwell Greer, 65 years old, former Delta Force, dishonorably discharged. Close-cropped gray hair and cold eyes that had seen too much violence and learned to love it. Greer was spotted in Helena 2 days ago, Torres said. We lost him in the warehouse district. He's here, and he's planning something. Kate studied the map of courthouse surroundings. Yuri Volkov, any sightings? None. If he's in the country, he's staying invisible. He's here, Kate said with certainty. This was always about Hawk, about finishing their war. Yuri wouldn't miss the endgame. Torres pulled up building schematics on a tablet. Ryan testifies tomorrow at 9 a.m. We're transporting him in an armored convoy. 4 vehicles, multiple routes planned, decoys deployed. Once he's inside the courthouse, he stays in a secure room until called. Maximum security. Kate examined the schematics, her tactical mind identifying vulnerabilities. They won't attack the convoy. Too obvious, too much firepower. They'll hit the courthouse itself. Impossible, Torres said. We have 30 federal agents inside, state police tactical teams, snipers on overwatch, metal detectors at every entrance. This building is locked down harder than most military installations. Then they'll create chaos, Kate said. Something that breaks your security posture, forces evacuation, or creates confusion. She looked at Torres. What's the biggest threat to a courthouse full of people? Torres understood immediately. Fire or bomb. Bomb, Kate confirmed. Create explosion, trigger evacuation, kill Ryan during the chaos. Make it look like collateral damage in a terrorist attack. Torres was already on her phone, ordering bomb dogs and additional EOD teams. But Kate saw the problem. Too many variables, too many places to hide an explosive device in a building this size. Ryan's voice was small. Maybe I shouldn't testify. If it's this dangerous, if people are dying because of me. Kate turned to face him, and her voice carried the weight of 2 weeks surviving together in wilderness. Ryan, you witnessed crimes. You reported them when silence would have been safer. Viktor Kozlov trafficked weapons that killed innocent people. Your testimony puts him away for decades. That matters. That's worth protecting. But Colonel Brennan made his choice, understood the mission. He'd be furious if you backed out now. Kate's voice softened slightly. You honor his sacrifice by finishing what he helped start. You testify, you tell the truth, you let justice work. Ryan nodded slowly, finding courage in Kate's certainty. Torres ended her call. Bomb sweep starts in 1 hour. Full building clear. We're also checking parking structures within 2 blocks. If there's an explosive device, we'll find it. Kate wasn't convinced, but this was Torres's operation now. Urban security, law enforcement procedures, civilian protection. This wasn't wilderness where Kate's training gave her advantage. This was Torres's battlefield. Where do you want me? Kate asked. With Ryan, personal security. You stay with him every second from now until he's on that witness stand. Kate accepted the assignment. She'd spent 2 weeks keeping Ryan alive in hostile terrain. She could manage 1 more day in a courthouse. They moved Ryan to a safe house, a nondescript apartment in a secure building. Federal marshals at every entrance. Kate positioned herself by the window with clear sightlines to approach routes. Night fell over Helena. Kate didn't sleep. She watched the city, her mind running scenarios, identifying threats, calculating responses, and thinking about Hawk. 72 hours. In her experience, that usually meant the worst. But Hawk wasn't usual. He was the man who'd survived Kaysan, who'd hunted Soviet snipers in Afghanistan, who'd trained 3 generations of America's deadliest operators. If anyone could survive impossible odds, it was him. Kate held on to that thought as midnight approached. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, then reconsidered. Morrison. Silence. Then breathing. Labored. Painful. Kate. Hawk's voice barely recognizable. Weak. Damaged. Kate's heart seized. Colonel, where are you? Warehouse District, East Side. Building marked with red graffiti. A wet cough. They got Frank. He's gone. Greer executed him. Made me watch. Kate was already moving, grabbing her rifle. I'm coming, hold on. No. Hawk's command voice cut through despite his weakness. You protect Ryan. That's the mission. I'm calling to warn you. Another labored breath. Greer has the courthouse wired. Bomb in parking garage. Set to detonate during Ryan's testimony. He told me before. A pause. Before he started working on me. Kate felt cold rage. What did he do to you? Doesn't matter. What matters is stopping that bomb. Parking garage, level 3, northwest corner, behind electrical panel. Hawk's breathing was getting worse. And Kate, Yuri's there, at the courthouse. He's the sniper, positioned somewhere with line of sight to the witness stand. How do you know this? Because Greer told me everything. Wanted me to know I failed. That my student would watch Ryan die and couldn't stop it. A wet laugh that turned into coughing. But Greer forgot one thing. You're better than I ever was. Colonel, I need you to stay alive. I'm sending emergency services. Too late for that. Hawk's voice was fading. Listen to me. Yuri's on the building southeast of courthouse. Old hotel. 8th floor. He has one shot. Through the courtroom window. High angle, maybe 400 yards. Difficult shot even for him, but he's had 40 years to practice with one eye. Kate was recording everything on her phone while simultaneously texting Torres. How do I stop him? Same way I taught you to stop any sniper. Be better. Be smarter. Use his pride against him. Hawk coughed again. He'll wait for the perfect moment, when Ryan stands to take oath. Maximum visibility. Maximum humiliation for me, knowing my student failed. You didn't fail. Haven't yet, but clock's ticking. His breathing was shallow now. Kate, one more thing. In my footlocker, back at the range, there's a letter. For you. Read it when this is over. You can give it to me yourself. We both know better. A long pause. You were the best student I ever had. Not because of your marksmanship, though that's world class, but because you grasp the deeper truth. A warrior's purpose is protection, not destruction. Protect Ryan, stop Yuri, finish the mission. His voice dropped to whisper, make it count. The line went dead. Kate stood frozen for 5 seconds, grief threatening to overwhelm training. Then she locked it down, compartmentalized. She'd mourn later. Right now, people needed her. She called Torres. I have intelligence. Hawk found their plan before. She couldn't say it. Bomb in parking garage. Level 3. And Yuri Volkov is positioned as counter-sniper. Torres didn't question the source. I'm sending teams to both locations now. Where's Hawk? Warehouse District, East Side, red graffiti building. He needs immediate medical. Kate's voice was steady despite everything breaking inside. And Torres, Frank Mitchell is KIA. Silence on the line. Then, understood. I'll notify next of kin. You stay with Ryan. Kate returned to the safe house. Ryan was asleep, finally, exhausted by 2 weeks of terror. She watched him, this ordinary young man who'd made an extraordinary choice, who'd cost Frank his life, and maybe Hawk's, but who'd done the right thing despite the price. Kate understood why Hawk had sacrificed everything to protect him. Morning came too fast. Kate had spent the night preparing, running scenarios, identifying every variable she could control. Torres called at 6 a.m. Bomb team found the device exactly where your source said. 20 pounds of C4, remotely detonated. We've disabled it. A pause. EOD says it was professional grade, military precision, would have brought down the entire parking structure. And the hotel? Southeast building? SWAT cleared it floor by floor, found a sniper position on 8th floor exactly as described. High-end rifle, custom scope, but no shooter. Whoever was there abandoned the position hours ago. Kate felt her tactical instincts screaming. He moved. Yuri adapted. Knew we'd find his primary position, so he established secondary. Where? Kate pulled up satellite imagery of courthouse surroundings on her tablet, studied angles, lines of sight. Yuri was 72, physically limited, would choose position with elevator access, climate control, comfort for extended wait. Office building, Kate said, 4 blocks north, 10 stories. Corner office would give him angle into courtroom. Check the law firm on the top floor. Torres dispatched units immediately. Kate dressed Ryan in body armor under his suit. The young man was pale but determined. Is Colonel Brennan? Ryan couldn't finish. Unknown, Kate said. It wasn't quite a lie. Hawk had been alive when they spoke. Whether he still was remained uncertain. The convoy formed at 8 a.m. 4 armored vehicles, identical, driving different routes. Ryan was in Vehicle 3 with Kate and 2 federal marshals. They moved through Helena streets with motorcycle escort, blocking intersections, controlling traffic. Kate scanned rooftops, windows, anywhere a threat could materialize. Her phone buzzed. Torres. Top floor of that office building. We found evidence of entry. Door lock picked. Corner office has perfect angle to courtroom. But again, no shooter. He's playing shell game, Kate said. Showing us positions to waste our resources. He's somewhere else. Somewhere we haven't considered. Where? Kate thought like a sniper, like Hawk had taught her. Yuri's 72, one eye, physically limited. He needs position that offers comfort, concealment, and clean escape route. He won't risk ground-level approach with all our security. He needs height, but not extreme. Clear line of sight, but indirect angle we wouldn't expect. Then she saw it. The courthouse itself. He's inside the building, somewhere with interior angle to the courtroom. Maybe maintenance level, maybe attorney areas. Somewhere he could enter before lockdown and wait. Torres swore. We cleared the building twice. Clear it again. Old man, one eye, carrying something that could be broken down rifle. Check janitorial closets, electrical rooms, anywhere someone could hide for hours. The convoy reached courthouse. Ryan and Kate moved quickly through security, surrounded by marshals. They went straight to the secure room where Ryan would wait until called. Kate's phone buzzed again. Torres, voice tight. Maintenance level, electrical access room. We found evidence someone's been there. Food wrappers, water bottles. And Kate, he left a message. What message? Written on the wall, says, the student will fail where the teacher succeeded. 40 years I waited. Today, James Brennan's legacy dies. Kate felt cold certainty. This wasn't about Ryan anymore. This was about destroying Hawk's reputation, proving that even his best student couldn't protect a witness. Ultimate revenge on the man who'd taken Yuri's eye and pride. He's not trying to kill Ryan, Kate said. He's trying to make me fail. Public humiliation of Hawk's training methods. He wants everyone to see that the legendary Phantom couldn't complete a simple protection mission. So, what's his play? Kate thought furiously. If Yuri didn't plan to shoot Ryan, what did he plan? Then it clicked. He's going after the evidence, not the witness. Ryan's testimony means nothing if the physical evidence gets destroyed. What happened to the weapons Ryan documented? The photographs? The serial number records? Torres's voice changed. Evidence room, 3rd floor. But that's impossible. It's guarded, secure. Check it, now. Kate heard running footsteps through the phone, voices shouting. Then Torres. Fire alarm just triggered on 3rd floor. Smoke in evidence room. Teams responding. Evacuation protocol? Kate demanded. Building stays locked. Fire department enters. We maintain security. A pause. Wait, sprinkler system isn't activating. This is deliberate. Someone's trying to destroy evidence without triggering full evacuation. Kate was already moving. She told the marshals, "Stay with Ryan. Lock this door. Nobody enters except me or Torres." She ran through courthouse corridors, rifle slung, moving with purpose that made people clear a path. Third floor. Evidence room. Federal agents clustered outside as smoke poured from ventilation. Kate pushed through. The fire was contained, professional accelerant creating maximum smoke with minimal spread. And in the corner, working quickly with chemical solutions on document boxes, was a figure in maintenance uniform. Old, one eye, moving with economical precision despite age. General Yuri Volkov looked up as Kate entered. He didn't reach for a weapon, just smiled. Kate Morrison, the Phantom, James Brennan's greatest achievement. His English carried heavy Russian accent. "I wondered if you would understand in time." Kate raised her rifle. "You're under arrest." "For what? Setting small fire in government building? Misdemeanor at best." He gestured to the evidence boxes. "I am destroying nothing critical, just creating distraction, making you choose between protecting witness and stopping me." "I chose both." "Did you?" Yuri glanced at his watch. "Your witness is alone with two marshals. My associate Maxwell Greer is very skilled at killing guards quietly. How long before you check on young Ryan?" Kate felt her heart stop. She keyed her radio. "Marshals, respond. Status on Ryan Mitchell." Silence. "Respond now." Static, then a voice. Not the marshals. Greer. "Hello, Kate. Colonel Brennan told me about you before he died. Said you were smart, fast, deadly. But he forgot to mention you're predictable. You left your principal to chase the shiny object. Amateur mistake." Kate was already running. Behind her, she heard Yuri's laugh. Federal agents swarmed the evidence room, but Kate didn't care. She'd left Ryan, violated the first rule of personal security: never leave your principal. She hit the stairs at full sprint, taking them 3 at a time. Fourth floor, the secure room. Door was still closed, but something felt wrong. Kate approached tactically, rifle up. She tried the door, locked from inside. Standard procedure. "Ryan, it's Kate. Open up." Silence. She used her override key, the one Torres had provided for emergencies. The lock clicked. She pushed the door open. Both marshals were dead. Professional kills. Suppressed shots to the head. They'd never had time to draw weapons. Ryan was gone. Kate's tactical mind cataloged everything. No signs of struggle, no blood except from the marshals. Taken, not killed, which meant leverage. Bargaining chip. Her phone rang. Unknown number. "Morrison." Greer's voice. "Good response time. 90 seconds from evidence room to secure room. Impressive, but not fast enough." "Where's Ryan?" "Alive, for now. Yuri wants to make a trade. Ryan Mitchell for James Brennan's legacy." "Hawk's dead. You killed him." "Did I? Are you certain?" A pause. "Meet us at the old railroad depot, east edge of town. 1 hour. Come alone. Bring no one. Or the boy dies and Yuri publishes video of the legendary Phantom failing her protection mission. Your mentor's reputation destroyed. Your career over. Everyone knowing you weren't worthy of Brennan's training." The line went dead. Kate stood in the room with 2 dead marshals and 1 missing witness. Everything Hawk had sacrificed. Everything Frank had died for. Gone because she'd made one tactical error. Torres burst through the door, saw the scene, and went pale. "Kate, Greer has Ryan. Wants to trade at the railroad depot. 1 hour. It's a trap." "Of course it's a trap." Kate checked her rifle. Full magazine, extra ammunition secured. "But it's also where Ryan is, so it's where I'm going." "Not alone. I'll mobilize tactical teams. He'll kill Ryan the second he sees backup." Kate met Torres's eyes. This is what I trained for. What Hawk prepared me to do. Solo operation, high-value target, hostile environment. I've done this before. In Afghanistan, with military support. And now in Montana, alone. Kate moved toward the door. Give me 1 hour. If I'm not back, send everyone. Torres grabbed her arm. Kate, you're not responsible for this. You made a tactical decision based on available intelligence. I left my principal. That's on me. Kate pulled free. 1 hour, then finish this however you need to. She left the courthouse to a service exit, avoiding the media circus developing as news spread of the incident. Her truck was parked 2 blocks away. She drove east toward the railroad depot, her mind running through every scenario, every possibility. The depot appeared abandoned, rusting rails and collapsing structures from Montana's industrial past. Perfect place for ambush, multiple angles, countless hiding positions. Kate parked half a mile away and approached on foot. She moved through the debris field like smoke, using every piece of cover, every shadow. Her eyes scanned constantly for threats. She found Ryan in the main depot building, tied to a chair, gagged, alive but terrified. No guards visible. Obviously bait. Kate circled the building twice, identifying 3 sniper positions, 2 ground approaches, 1 escape route. This was professional setup, Greer's work. And somewhere, Yuri waited with his rifle. She keyed her radio to emergency frequency. Torres, Railroad Depot. Ryan's here. 3 shooters minimum. I'm going in. Torres's voice was tight. Kate, wait for backup. No time. Kate moved to the building's blind side. Old service entrance, door hanging on broken hinges. She slipped inside, rifle up, flowing through shadows. The interior was vast. Open warehouse space with rusting equipment and scattered debris. Ryan sat in the center, deliberately exposed, making Kate cross open ground to reach him. Kate Morrison. Greer's voice echoed from somewhere above. Predictable to the end. You came alone, just like your mentor would have. Kate didn't respond. She was scanning, calculating. Greer was on the 2nd floor catwalk. She could see his shadow. But where was Yuri? Your teacher died badly, Greer continued, begging, crying, so much for the legend of Hawk Brennan. Kate felt rage, controlled it, used it. Greer was trying to make her emotional, sloppy. She wouldn't give him the satisfaction. Movement, 3rd floor, a glint of scope. Yuri, positioned with angle on both Ryan and the approach routes. 2 shooters, high ground. Kate in the open, Ryan as bait. Textbook, kill zone. Kate did the last thing they expected. She stepped into the open, rifle lowered. I'm here, let's talk. Greer laughed. Talk? You're surrounded, outgunned. Your witness is dead the second I give the signal. Then give it, Kate said calmly. But Yuri doesn't want Ryan dead. He wants me to fail publicly. Knowing Ryan in an abandoned depot doesn't accomplish that. No witnesses, no cameras, no humiliation. Silence. She'd identified the flaw in their plan. Smart girl, Yuri's voice came from above. You understand psychology of revenge. Is not enough to win. Must be seen winning. Must destroy enemy's legacy publicly. So what do you want? Kate kept her voice steady. I want trade, Yuri said. Ryan Mitchell goes free. You stay, and I kill you with same rifle I used to hunt your teacher in Afghanistan. Then I call media. Show them body of phantom. Prove James Brennan's methods were flawed. His students mortal. His legend nothing but smoke. Kate calculated rapidly. Greer would never honor that deal. The second Ryan was released, both of them would die. This was buying time, nothing more. But time was all she needed. Because while Greer and Yuri had been talking, Kate had been moving. Slight shifts, positioning herself between Ryan and Yuri's angle. Putting herself in line of fire while using debris for partial cover. Counter offer, Kate said. You let Ryan go. I put down my rifle. Then you and I settle this like soldiers. No tricks, no backup, just skill. Greer started to respond, but Yuri cut him off. Acceptable. Send the boy out. Kate heard movement behind her, footsteps on metal stairs. Then a third voice, weak, damaged, but unmistakable. Kate, get down! Hawk. Kate dropped instantly. The rifle shot cracked through the warehouse. Greer screamed. Hit! More shots. Yuri firing at new threat. Kate rolled, came up with her rifle, acquired Yuri's position. She fired 3 times. Suppressive fire, making him seek cover. Hawk appeared on the second-floor catwalk, limping badly, holding a rifle with shaking hands. He was covered in blood, barely standing, but his eyes were clear. Blood soaked through makeshift bandages. Couldn't let you have all the fun, Hawk said through gritted teeth. Kate saw the IV port still taped to his arm, the surgical staples visible through torn shirt. You shouldn't be here, Kate said. Exactly where I should be. Hawk raised the rifle with trembling arms. One more shot, that's all I need. He fired again, forcing Yuri to relocate. Kate moved fast. She reached Ryan, cut his bonds with her knife. Run, through that door. Don't stop until you find federal agents. Ryan ran. Greer was wounded, but not dead. He fired at Hawk from floor level. The round caught the old colonel in the shoulder, spinning him. Kate's shot was pure instinct, muscle memory, breathing, trigger squeeze, center mass. Greer dropped. That left Yuri. The old Soviet sniper emerged from cover on the 3rd floor. His rifle was aimed directly at Hawk. 40 years, Yuri said. Ends now. Kate stepped into his line of fire. No, it ends with me. Yuri shifted aim. Brave, foolish, but brave. James trained you well. Pity you die for nothing. Not for nothing, Kate said. For justice, for honor, for the right reasons. She raised her rifle. 400 yards. Vertical angle. Moving target with one eye and 40 years of experience. The hardest shot she'd ever attempted. Hawk's voice, weak but certain. Breathe, you've got this. Kate breathed, found her natural respiratory pause. Calculated angle, wind, movement. She fired. The round crossed 400 yards in less than a second. It caught Yuri center mass. The old Soviet sniper looked surprised. Then he fell. Silence crashed through the warehouse. Kate ran to Hawk. He'd collapsed against the railing, blood pooling beneath him. She pressed her hands to his wounds, trying to stem the bleeding. You were supposed to be dead, Kate said, voice breaking. Hard to kill, Hawk whispered. Learned that in Vietnam. Greer thought he'd killed me. Got sloppy, left me with a sat phone. Called Torres. Emergency evac got me to field hospital. Checked myself out against medical advice. I learned that from you. Yeah, bad habit. His breathing was shallow. Ryan? Safe. Mission complete. Good, Hawk smiled. Then we won. Despite everything, we won. Don't die on me, Colonel. That's an order. Can't follow that one. His hand gripped hers. But you can. You'll keep training people. Keep passing on what I taught you. Legacy doesn't end with me. It continues through you. Sirens in the distance. Torres mobilizing response. Hawk's eyes were closing. Letter. In my footlocker. Read it. I will. And Kate, you were never just my student. You were the daughter I never had. The proof that everything I believed in mattered. You made it worth it. His hand went slack. Kate held him as tactical teams swarmed the building. As paramedics tried to revive him, as Torres pulled her away gently. Colonel James Hawk Brennan died in a railroad depot in Helena, Montana, age 68. Surrounded by the violence he'd spent 50 years navigating, but protecting others until his last breath. 3 weeks later, Kate stood in a federal courtroom. Ryan Mitchell gave his testimony with steady voice. 17 defendants were convicted. Viktor Kozlov was sentenced to 25 years. His organization was dismantled. Justice, Hawk would have said, was served. Kate returned to Pine Ridge shooting range. Marcus met her at the entrance. Torres called, told me everything. I'm sorry about the colonel. Kate nodded. Words didn't come easy yet. She went to Hawk's office, found his footlocker. Inside, beneath military medals and old photographs, was an envelope with her name. She opened it. The letter was written in Hawk's precise handwriting. Kate, if you're reading this, I'm gone. Don't mourn long. I lived longer than I deserved and died doing what mattered. Protecting the innocent, teaching the next generation, finishing old business. You are the finest warrior I ever trained. The range is yours now. Use it to train others. Pass on what I taught you. Create the next generation of protectors. That's how legacies survive. Through students who become teachers. Don't let my death make you doubt yourself. You were ready years ago. I just enjoyed teaching you too much to say so. Keep fighting the good fight. Semper Fi, Hawk. Kate folded the letter carefully, stood, walked to the range. Young shooters were practicing. Marcus was instructing with new humility, teaching Hawk's methods. Kate picked up a rifle, checked it with automatic precision, stepped to the line. She raised the weapon, found her breathing, found that space between heartbeats where everything became clear. The shot broke perfect. Behind her, Marcus approached. Will you train me? Really train me? The way Hawk trained you? Kate lowered her rifle, looked at this young instructor who'd learned humility through necessity. Yes, but understand what you're asking. This isn't about shooting. It's about becoming someone worth protecting others. Someone who uses deadly skills for right reasons. I understand, Kate nodded. Then we start tomorrow. Be ready to have everything you think you know challenged. Marcus smiled. I'm ready. As the sun set over Montana mountains, Kate Morrison stood at the range where everything had begun, where an arrogant instructor had challenged her, where Hawk had taught her final lessons, where old wars had found new battlefields. The Phantom was back in the world, no longer retired, no longer hiding, teaching, training, creating the next generation of warriors who understood that protecting the innocent mattered more than personal glory. Hawk's war was over, finished in a railroad depot with honor intact and mission complete. But Kate's war continued. New students, new threats, new opportunities to prove that what Hawk had taught her mattered. She raised her rifle again, fired, perfect shot. Somewhere, she imagined, an old colonel was smiling. The sun disappeared behind the Rockies. Kate Morrison stood at the range, rifle in hand, Hawk's letter in her pocket. Tomorrow would bring new students. Young shooters who needed to learn that skill without honor was meaningless. Marcus approached, no longer the arrogant instructor, but a humbled student ready to learn. When do we start? He asked. Kate chambered around, raised her rifle, found that space between heartbeats where Hawk's voice still echoed.